Okay, y'all, it smells too good. I'm not gonna be able to wait. I'm not gonna be able to wait. Oh man, look at that. Look how cheesy that is. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Ooh. 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 Hey y'all, how's it going? I know it's been a minute, but welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then welcome. I'm glad to have you. Today, I'm going to be making some chicken rice and broccoli casserole. It's a very simple, easy recipe. I know sometimes cooking rice can be intimidating, but I do have a few tips that hopefully can help you out. So let me go ahead and share it because I'm all about maximizing time in the kitchen. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Okay, so besides chicken breast or chicken tenderloin strips, all you're gonna need is chicken broth, 2 cans of cream of chicken, broccoli florets, long grain white rice, a small Velveeta cheese, and extra sharp cheddar cheese or whatever type of cheese that you like to eat. I measure out my rice first and I rinse it well before I add the water. So I already know that I put in 1 cup of rice, so I'm gonna add 2 cups of water. Now to me, this is how you can make good rice. You add the rice in the water after you rinse your rice and go ahead and turn it on high. Make sure you have a lid that fits the pot. That makes a big difference when you're cooking rice. Once the rice starts to boil, you can go ahead and add the lid and turn the fire down between low and simmer. For those who have watched my cooking videos before, you know I always use Tony's to season, garlic powder, and onion powder. I'm using chicken tenderloins, but you can also use chicken breast. I'm only using 4 because I don't want a lot of chicken in it and I'm just making a small portion. So you can use as much chicken as you like depending on how big of a casserole you're gonna make. But for now, since I'm making just for me and my husband, I'm using just 4 chicken tenderloins and just seasoning both sides. I also like to add a little bit of Worcestershire sauce. You don't have to, but I just like to flavor the chicken a little bit more with it. But it's not necessary to use it. I just like to add a little bit to it. As the chicken starts to cook, I start cutting it up. It's easier when it's cooked a little bit to cut it up, but I just start cutting up the chicken, making it in small pieces. If you are using frozen broccoli, now you don't necessarily have to do this, but this is something that I do because I like just the tips of the broccoli in there and not the stem. So I cut the stems. I would suggest that if you want to cut the stems, just make sure that you take the, let the broccoli sit out for a second since it's going to be frozen. You're using frozen broccoli. So I just kind of cut the stems off because to me, it's just easier to eat without the stems on there. So I just go through and just cut the stems off of the broccoli. You can leave a few stems in there if you like, but I try to get as many of the stems off as I can. I prefer to have more broccoli than chicken, so really it's your personal preference of how much broccoli you use, but this is how much broccoli I have after cutting off the stems. I would say it's maybe about 1.5 cups, and I use 1 cup of rice and about 1 cup of chicken once it was cut up. For those of you who are not comfortable with cooking rice, You want to make sure that all of the water is boiled out of the rice, but you don't want it to overcook and become mushy. So when it starts to look like this, I usually turn the fire off and then just let it continue to boil out without necessarily still cooking it. And yeah, that's a good indication to turn the fire off. When cooking the broccoli, instead of using water, I use chicken broth. So I just put enough chicken broth in there to cover the broccoli so it can cook. So all you want to do is for the broccoli to come to a boil with the chicken broth. I use chicken broth instead of water, and we're gonna add the cheese to that mix, but I'll show you that in just a moment. After the rice is done, we add it to the pan that we're gonna use, and also we add 1 can of the cream of chicken. Being that I'm only making a small dish, I may not use both cans of the cream of chicken, but I'll just go ahead and stir that up. Yeah, I think the 1 can is gonna be plenty. I usually use 2 cans of cream of chicken if I use 2 cups of rice, but since I only use 1 cup of rice this time, I only added 1 can of cream of chicken, and I think that's gonna be plenty, since I'm just making a small amount. Now, once the broccoli starts to come to a boil, I turn the fire down and I start adding the cheese to the broccoli. This is a small Velveeta, so I'll just go ahead and add the entire amount to it and just stir the cheese up with the broccoli. And remember, we use chicken broth, not water, so we're just gonna add this entire pot to the rice. Just a quick and easy way to make it. I know people may make it different, but this is just how I do it because it's quick and it's easy. So we can turn the fire off as the cheese starts to melt. Just keep stirring it because you don't want the cheese to stick. So now we're going to add the broccoli with the cheese into the rice. Stir it up. And we're gonna add the chicken. Stir it all up together. So you wanna make sure that you have a pan big enough to hold everything so you can stir it all in together. That's still a lot more chicken than what I like, but it's okay. We're gonna make it work. It's really all about you and how much you like to use. After everything is mixed up, I do like to add a little pepper on top. And then sprinkle the top with cheese. Cover it with foil and put it in the oven on about 350. After about 30 minutes, you want to remove the foil and let it continue to cook for maybe about another 15 minutes. Oh my goodness, that smells so good. And you see how the cheese is bubbling up around the sides, the edges? That's how you want it to look. I'm gonna let it brown just a little bit more, but oh, it smells delicious. Okay, so I have taken it out. I would suggest letting it sit for a little while just so that the cheese can settle, but I don't know, y'all. It smells so good. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to wait. Okay, y'all, it smells too good. I'm not gonna be able to wait. I'm not gonna be able to wait. Oh man, look at that. Look how cheesy that is. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let me grab a spoon right quick. Look at that. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It tastes better every time I make it. It tastes better and better. Oh, that was a good batch. Ooh. So good.